The quote-unquote experts in Vegas are saying that West Virginia will only win 4.5 games in the 2023 football season. Would I hammer the over or the under on that number if I was a betting man in 2023? Pull up a chair, sit back, relax, and let's talk about it. What is up, college sports fans, Big 12 fans, and fellow members of Mountaineer Nation? This is Couz, and welcome in to another edition of Couz's Corner. Pull that chair up and let me serve you up this shot of top-shelf college football content. On tap in today's episode, we are once again talking West Virginia football. We are focusing this time on the 4.5 win total that is being projected for the Mountaineers by DraftKings. Now, when I first saw that number, I really scratched my head thinking, do they really think West Virginia is going to be worse than they were last year? But I really disagree with it, and here in a minute I'm going to tell you why. After DraftKings came out with their projections, a few days later, Jesse Simonton over at On3.com came out with an article, and he's actually saying that he thinks 4.5 is too high of a win total for the Mountaineers. So that really got me scratching my head and really made me want to do this video because I think Jesse Simonton is completely wrong. Now, am I going to sit here and tell you that I think West Virginia is going to compete for the Big 12 title in 2023? I don't think that. As a matter of fact, I think they will probably be in the 6 to 7 win range if I had to throw a prediction out today, which I'll save that for a future video. But 4.5 wins to me, I would hammer the over today, right now, if I was placing a bet. And I'm going to give you 5 reasons why. The first reason is simple. The schedule for 2023, especially the conference portion of the schedule. Yes, the non-conference portion of West Virginia's schedule is absolutely brutal. They opened the season going to Happy Valley to take on the Penn State Nittany Lions, who will likely be a top 10 team going into the season. Then 2 weeks later, they have Pitt, their arch rival, coming to Morgantown. And once again, Pitt is expected to be a pretty good team again in 2023 and could once again potentially compete for an ACC championship. But once you get to the Big 12 portion of the schedule is when I really think West Virginia can get some of these wins, especially in the back half of the schedule in the second half of the year. I think it lines up well for them. West Virginia is one of the few teams in the Big 12 who has to play all 4 newcomers in 2023. So yeah, that's right. They play BYU, Cincinnati, UCF, and Houston. Now, 2 of those games are at home, 2 are on the road. They have BYU coming to Morgantown. They have Cincinnati coming to Morgantown. Both of those, to me, should be wins. Now, they do have to go to Houston on a Thursday night, which will be a tough game, and I'm sure Dana Holgorsen has that circled on his calendar. And they have to go to the bounce house to play UCF in late October, which will be another tough environment. But theoretically, West Virginia should win all 4 of those games, in my opinion, because these new teams, will they have the depth to compete in the Big 12 in year one? And will they be able to adjust to playing at a higher level of football, playing Power 5 football week in, week out, their first year in a Power 5 league? We will see. I'm not saying they can't, but I think it's a stretch to think they can. And I think West Virginia should win at least 3 of those games, if not all 4. You add in the win against FCS opponent Duquesne, and surely to goodness, that right there gives them at least 5 potentially. And surely to goodness they could pull out at least 1 win against their other Big 12 opponents, Baylor, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, TCU, or Oklahoma. If they can win against the 4 newbies, Duquesne, that's 5, and pull off 1 more win, that gets them to 6 in bowl eligibility. Now, the second reason I think you should hammer the over on 4.5 wins for West Virginia, they lost less impact players to the transfer portal after the 2022 season. To me, when you look at the players that made an impact last year, the most impactful players, I should say, that were lost to the portal, you've got Jordan Jefferson, Caden Prather, Reese Smith, Michael Laughlin, Tony Mathis, Taj Austin, and Charles Woods. And I would probably throw in JT Daniels to that mix as well. Now, speaking of Daniels, I mean, he lost the starting job at quarterback 3 or 4 games left in the season. So to me, that's not that big of a loss. He probably wouldn't have started this year anyway. Then you look at, Reese Smith only caught 10 passes in 2022. Michael Laughlin, yes, he was a good player when he was healthy, but he struggled to stay healthy. He struggled to stay on the field because of injury issues. Then you look at Mathis, who had basically been relegated to 3rd string. Now, yes, he would have gotten playing time, and he was a valuable piece to the team. I'm not going to say he wasn't. However, when you look at depth at that position, or the deepest position group of the entire team is the running back position. So, to me, Mathis is not a huge loss either. Austin had gotten beat out by Sean Martin at the defensive tackle spot. Then you got Charles Woods, who, yes, was very talented, was a preseason All Big 12 corner for West Virginia going into last year, got hurt in the opening game against Pitt, and missed majority of the season with an injury. Now, because of that, players like Jacoby Spales and others had to step in and get more playing time than the staff probably wanted to give them because of Woods' injury. So Woods' injury, while it hurt them last year, could actually benefit them this year because it will have guys like Spales and others prepared to play. And they won't be like a deer in headlights when they get out there this year, hopefully, like they were in 2022. Also, most of the players that West Virginia has brought in from the transfer portal this year, or this all season, to me, are better than the players we lost, or at least as good as the players that were lost at their respective positions, at least in most cases. Now, the third reason I would hammer the over on 4.5 wins for West Virginia in 2023, for the first time in Neil Brown's tenure at West Virginia, he will have a mobile quarterback. That's right. Whether it's Garrett Green starting or Nico Marchiol, the Mountaineers will have a quarterback behind center that will be able to get out of trouble and also make plays with their legs when needed. We know in the past they've had Austin Kendall, Jarrett Dagey, and JT Daniels. None of those guys were good at making plays with their feet. Some even struggle to get out of the way of a defense when the offensive line might miss a block. And speaking of the offensive line, having that mobile quarterback will put less pressure on that offensive line, so they should be able to perform at a higher level, knowing that, hey, even if I miss a block, even if I'm not perfect, I've got a quarterback back here who won't necessarily have to take a sack just because my guy gets by me once in a while. He will be able to get out of the way and avoid the rush, and or maybe even make a play out of it. So puts less pressure on the offensive line to perform, in my opinion, because of the quarterback being able to move around and avoid pressure. Now, the fourth reason that I would hammer the over of 4.5 wins is the defense. I think the defense should be much improved in 2023 over 2022. I mean, let's face it, they can't get much worse, right? I mean, they were bottom third of the country in defense, especially in passing defense last season. A lot of that can be attributed to the guys they lost to the portal going into 2022. And then some of that can be attributed to losing Charles Woods during that Pitt game. And he missed majority of the season with an injury. Because of that, they had to put a lot of players in positions they weren't accustomed to. They had to play a lot of young players that really may not have been ready yet. And because of that, West Virginia really struggled on the defensive side. Now, before last year, West Virginia had been good defensively. I mean, they had been top, at least top 50, top 40 or 50 in the country in defense every season that Jordan Leslie's been the DC. And matter of fact, in 2020, they were a top 10 defense nationally, if not top 5, if memory serves me correctly. So Jordan Leslie, in my opinion, can coach defense. He just last year, for whatever reason, they were not able to get it done. I think this year they will make some adjustments and be able to play better defense. Even if they're a top 50 defense this year, I think this team as overall will be much better. And you take in consideration the fact they bring back a guy like Aubrey Burks, who was the second highest rated safety returning in the entire country, at least in all of Power 5, according to Pro Football Focus. You've got Hershey McLaren coming back, who's got experience now. You've got Jacoby Spells, like I mentioned earlier, who was thrown to the Wolves last year. He now has a year of experience. You've got Marcus Floyd back, Andrew Wilson-Lamp back. All of those guys in the secondary have experience under their belt now at the Power 5 level and should not have as big of an adjustment as they had last year. And then the guys they brought in from the transfer portal, Keyshawn Cobb and Montre Miller and Anthony Wilson, all should be better than the guys we had last year on this team, in my opinion. Then you look at the linebacker spot, you've got Lee Koba, who was the leading tackler on the team last year. He'll be back with one year of experience in the system. Now, he did struggle last year in pass coverage. That was where he struggled the most. But like I said, one more year of experience, and Jordan Leslie and staff have simplified the defense this year so the guys won't have to think as much and can just react. And I think that will go a long way in helping players like Lee Koba have a more successful 2023. And the fifth and final reason I would smash the over on 4.5 wins for West Virginia, and that's the trenches, both offensively and defensively. First, let's look at the defense. Yes, we lost Jordan Jefferson to the transfer portal and lost Dante Stills to the NFL draft. And I'd be naive if I said that won't hurt, especially the loss of Stills, who's going to go down as one of the best defensive linemen to ever play at West Virginia University. Okay, that's a big loss. I won't deny that. However, Sean Martin, in my opinion, showed last year he's more than capable of being the top guy on that defensive line. I mean, he had really good numbers last year. Ended up winning the starting job over Sean Alston a couple games into the season last year and never relinquished it. He played on that opposite side from Dante and played really well last year, and he's going to be expected to be the top guy and the leader of that defensive front this year. Then you've got Mike Lockhart, who will have a year of experience, actually 2 years of experience now at the Power 5 level. He's a transfer who came over last year from Georgia Tech. You've got Eddie Vesterainen, the other defensive lineman, who's expected to start up there. He has another year of experience under his belt. And then don't forget, they brought in 3 transfers, 2 of those from Power 5 schools, and then one in Devon Hawkins, who they call Day Day, who's had a tremendous spring. And this guy has the potential to be an absolute stud up front and could potentially replace Dante's production on the defensive line. That's how good this guy could be. He could potentially replace the production we lost with Dante Steels, or at least come really, really close. Then we've got Fatorma Mulba, who's likely going to be a backup at the nose tackle position coming out of Penn State. Then you've got Tamawa Duragier, who's transferring from Kentucky. He has 1 year of experience at Kentucky, playing against Power 5 level competition every single day at practice. I think those guys could potentially compete for roles on this 2023 team. Then we look at the offensive line. This is where I think West Virginia could really, really improve and really make progress in 2023, is relying on this experienced and talented offensive line. They return one of the best units, not only in all the Big 12, but arguably in all of the country in 2023. When you look at their stats from 2022, and I'm going to share with you some of those right now, but when you look at their blocking grades from last year, now this came from Parker, who goes by Stats of War on Twitter. He's really a stats guy. He's a TCU fan, but does a lot of stats. I've actually had the pleasure of having him on my show. But he had this stat from last year: percent of design rushes with a blown blocking assignment in 2022. And as you'll see, West Virginia is at the bottom of that list, which in this case is a good thing because that means they only missed 4.3% of their blocks on design runs in 2022. Now, when you add that in to the running back room that we're going to have with C.J. Donaldson, Jalen Anderson, Justin Johnson, Jaheim White, I mean, you got DJ Oliver coming in. You look at that running back room, the experienced running back room, the talent of that running back room, and this offensive line, and as good as they run blocked last year, they should be even better in 2023. That bodes well, in my opinion, for the Mountaineers going in to the season. Then also, when you look at their Pro Football Focus grades, when you look at the top offensive performers from last year, right there at the top of that list, you see Zach Frazier, offensive lineman, 80.9 grade. One of the highest graded centers coming back in the entire nation in 2023. If I'm not mistaken, he was number 2 in the nation. He's a preseason All-American according to Athlon Sports. First team, I might add. Then you go down the list, you've got Wyatt Milam at the left tackle spot, who graded out as a 76. And keep in mind that was only as a sophomore. He's going to be a junior. He has another year in the weight room, another year of experience under his belt, and he had changed positions last year. Remember, his freshman year he played right tackle. Last year he moved to left tackle. He'll have another year of experience at the left tackle spot this year, so he won't have to adjust. Then you've got Tomas Rimac, who's going to replace James Gamitter at that left guard spot. He scored out at 70.3 as a redshirt freshman. So, again, another year of experience, another year in the weight room. You got Doug Nestor, who's expected to probably move out to right tackle this year. He scored 70.2 playing the right guard spot most of the season there. The glaring weakness on the offensive line last year was that right tackle position, which was held by either Jaquay Hubbard or Brandon Yates during most of the season. Those guys kind of split snaps at that position. But the staff has been tinkering with different things. They've been moving, like I said, they moved Nestor out to tackle. They've been playing Yates and Hubbard a lot more on the interior at guard and even some at center. And all indications coming out of spring practice is that those guys performed well at guard, maybe even better at guard than they did at right tackle. So if they can shore up that spot, if those guys are in a more comfortable position where they can be successful, then you've got Nestor anchoring down the right tackle spot. I feel a lot better about this team and this offensive line going into 2023. And even if they do have one weakness up there, I think the other 4 guys will be extremely, extremely good. And if they run 2-back sets, you can run 2-back sets to offset a weak spot on the line and play an extra tight end. There's a lot of things you can do scheme related to offset a weakness on the offensive line. So I feel really good about this team in the trenches, especially on the offensive side of the ball going in to 2023, which is the number one reason why I will smash the over on 4.5 wins for the Mountaineers in 2023. Let me know in the comment section if you think I'm full of it. If you think there's no way this team wins 4.5 games or more than 4.5 games in 2023, I respect your opinion. Let me know in the comment section. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to it on podcast platforms, do me a favor, go leave me a 5-star review, whether it be on Apple, whether it be on Spotify, whatever platform you're listening on. Please leave me a 5-star review. If you do that, send me a screenshot of the 5-star review you left me, and along with your address, I will send you a free Couz's Corner koozie. You can send it to my email, which is Couz, COUZ.walker@gmail.com. Also, guys, if you want to support the show, there's several ways you can do that. You can, drop a like by hitting the thumbs up button. You can drop me a comment down below, like I mentioned earlier. You can share it with your friends. Subscribe to the channel here on YouTube if you haven't yet. Also, subscribe and follow me on podcast platforms, whatever your favorite platform might be. Guys, you can support me financially in several different ways. I have a merch store. You can buy you a shirt, a coffee mug, a hoodie, a ball cap, a lot of different items to choose from there. A lot of different designs as well. If you're watching on YouTube, you can actually see photos of some of the merch designs below. And if you're listening, click the link there in the description or in the show notes, and you can get to the merch store that way as well. And last but not least, you can go check out my friends over at Blue Ridge Coffee Crafters. Get you a delicious bag of coffee, whether you want it in, you can buy the beans or you can buy the ground coffee. Either way, it's really, really good. This coffee's less bitter. It's less acidic. It tastes great. But go check them out, BlueRidgeCoffeeCrafters.com, and type Couz's in the comments to check out. Let them know you heard about it right here on the channel. Last but not least, you can join my channel here, become a channel member, take advantage of the perks I have to offer, whether it be random member shout-outs, whether it be early access to some content, things like that. I want to give a shout-out right now to a random channel member, Luke Bart. Luke, I really appreciate your support. Thank you for being a member of my channel. Also, shout-out to David Cummings, outlaw of college football, and the rest of my channel members out there. I really appreciate your support. Hope to catch the rest of you next time. Well, that being said, I really appreciate your support. I appreciate you tuning into this episode. And until the next one, Q Country Roads. West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home.